She was America's sweetheart. The woman who made millions laugh with her wild expressions, comic timing, and that unforgettable red hair. But behind the laughter was a woman with fierce opinions and a sharp memory. Lucille Ball was not just a performer. She was a powerhouse who remembered every insult, every betrayal, and every bad attitude. She did not always show it, but there were actors who rubbed her the wrong way. And when she disliked someone, it stayed with her. Her charm had limits, and so did her patience. Today, we reveal the 6 names Lucille Ball truly disliked. Before we dive into video, please subscribe our channel. Number 1. William Frolley on screen. They were America's favorite neighbors. Lucy and Fred, always bickering, always hilarious. But what most fans did not know was that behind the scenes, Lucille Ball and William Frolley couldn't stand each other. Their chemistry on I Love Lucy was electric, but it was all acting. When the cameras stopped rolling, so did their friendliness. William Frolley, who played Fred Mertz, was a seasoned actor with a sharp tongue and a serious drinking problem. Lucy, a perfectionist who demanded professionalism on set, found his behavior frustrating. He was often late, sometimes slurred his lines, and had a reputation for being moody and unpredictable. Lucille did not tolerate that kind of chaos, especially not on the set of a show she helped create. Despite their tension, she didn't have the power to fire him outright. CBS warned that if Frolley missed a single day of work or caused a serious incident, he'd be let go. To his credit, Frolley never crossed that final line, but Lucy still kept her distance. Their interactions were strictly professional, cold, brief, and often laced with subtle insults. Frolley, on the other hand, had his own issues with Lucy. He believed she was too controlling and resented the way she ran the set. He once told a friend, "I respect her talent, but I don't have to like her." That feeling was mutual. When I Love Lucy ended, and there were talks of a spin-off show featuring Fred and Ethel Mertz, Lucy immediately shut it down. She refused to be involved in anything that gave Frolley more screen time. Years later, when he passed away in 1966, someone asked Lucille Ball what she thought. Her response was short and cold. He was a good actor. That was it. No tribute, no emotion, just distance. Their relationship was one of the most famous silent feuds in Hollywood history. 2 brilliant actors who made millions laugh, while secretly barely speaking. It's a reminder that even the brightest laughter can hide deep cracks behind the curtain. And William Frolley? He may have been unforgettable as Fred, but in Lucy's world he was first on the list of people she wished she never had to work with. Number 2. Richard Burton. Richard Burton was one of the most celebrated actors of his time. Bold, intense, and utterly magnetic on screen. But to Lucille Ball, he was nothing more than a diva with a booming ego. Their paths crossed only briefly, but the impact was enough for Lucy to place him firmly on her blacklist. It happened during a guest appearance, when Burton was invited to do a special alongside Lucy. At that point, Lucille was already a television legend, running her own production company and calling the shots. She expected every actor, no matter how famous, to respect the rhythm and energy of her sets. But Burton, coming from the world of Shakespeare and dramatic cinema, didn't see television, especially sitcoms, as serious work. And worse, he didn't hide it. From day one, there was friction. Burton reportedly mocked the show's writing and found Lucy's comedic style over the top and outdated. He had little patience for rehearsals, shrugged off direction, and made sarcastic remarks that rubbed everyone the wrong way. For Lucy, who had spent years perfecting the science of comedy, this wasn't just disrespect. It was personal. Lucille Ball had built her empire brick by brick, joke by joke. To her, timing was sacred, and every actor's performance mattered. Watching Burton roll his eyes and improvise lines that ruined the punchline was unforgivable. At one point, Lucy is said to have whispered to a crew member, "He's not here to perform. He's here to be worshipped." Off set, things weren't better. Burton reportedly brought his entourage, demanded special accommodations, and treated the crew like they were beneath him. Lucy, known for treating her cast and crew like family, found this kind of behavior revolting. It was the complete opposite of what she stood for. After the episode aired, Lucille never invited Burton back. When later asked in an interview if she'd ever work with him again, she laughed and said, "Once was enough, never again." Their clash wasn't just about personality, it was about pride, about 2 towering forces in entertainment who couldn't share the same space. One represented theatrical royalty, the other television greatness. But in Lucille Ball's world, if you didn't respect the work, you didn't earn her respect. and Richard Burton never did. Number 3. Barbra Streisand. Barbra Streisand and Lucille Ball never worked together on a project. But that didn't stop tension from growing between two of Hollywood's most powerful women. In interviews and private circles, Lucy made her opinion clear. She didn't like Streisand, and not just a little. She once described her as too much attitude, not enough gratitude. To understand Lucy's feelings, we have to understand the time. Lucille Ball came from the old school of Hollywood, where hard work, humility, and respect for seniority mattered. She believed in building your career step by step, proving your worth with time and dedication. But when Streisand exploded onto the scene in the 1960s, she shattered all those norms. Barbra had an unmatched voice, commanding stage presence, and a fierce independence that often came off as arrogance. She refused to be molded by studios, talked back to directors, and never apologized for being ambitious. And while millions admired her for it, Lucille Ball didn't. Lucy reportedly felt that Barbra's rise was too fast, too flashy, and too disrespectful to the women who had come before her. She once told a close friend, "She acts like she invented Hollywood." It was the kind of remark that made its way through the studio grapevine. There was also jealousy, though no one would dare call it that to Lucy's face. Streisand represented a new era of women in entertainment, bold, loud, and unapologetically in control. Lucille had fought tooth and nail for that kind of power, but had to do it quietly, through charm and cleverness. Seeing Barbra take the spotlight on her own terms likely stirred something deeper. Maybe admiration, maybe bitterness, maybe both. One producer even claimed that Lucy blocked Streisand from a guest spot on one of her later shows. She said, "It wouldn't be a good fit," he recalled. But we all knew what she meant. Despite their differences, Lucy never publicly trashed Barbra. That wasn't her style. But in private, her words were sharp and clear. To Lucille Ball, Barbra Streisand was talented, but she didn't earn her place the right way. And in Lucy's eyes, that was enough to earn a permanent place on her mental blacklist. Number 4. Jerry Lewis. They were both giants in the world of comedy. Two legends who could command a room with nothing but a facial expression or a perfectly timed pause. But while the world laughed at Jerry Lewis, Lucille Ball didn't find him funny. In fact, she found him intolerable. Their paths crossed many times throughout their careers, especially as both were powerhouses in the 1950s and 60s. From award shows to charity events and Hollywood studio parties, they shared the same circles. But when Lucille was asked to collaborate with Jerry Lewis on a comedy special, she hesitated, and then flat out refused. That raised eyebrows in the industry. Behind closed doors, Lucy called Jerry loud, crude, and unbearable. His over-the-top antics, slapstick screaming, and constant need for attention clashed completely with her refined approach to comedy. Lucille Ball had mastered the art of controlled chaos. Her comedy was structured, timed, and layered. Jerry, in her view, just shouted his way through a scene and called it brilliance. But it wasn't just style, it was behavior. Jerry Lewis was known for being difficult off camera. He reportedly interrupted others during planning, dismissed suggestions, and acted as if he was the only one in the room who understood comedy. For Lucy, who ran her own production studio and expected professionalism and mutual respect, this was a major red flag. Their most infamous moment came during a televised roast, where Jerry joked that Lucy played dumb too well and that she got by on red hair and luck. Lucy smiled on camera, but insiders said she was furious. After the event, she reportedly told a friend, "He hides insults behind a joke. That's not comedy. That's cowardice." Years later, when Jerry tried to smooth things over by offering to guest star on one of Lucy's later sitcoms, her answer was short: "No thanks." That door had closed, and Lucille never reopened it. The world may have laughed with Jerry Lewis, but Lucille Ball didn't. To her, comedy wasn't just noise and nonsense. It was an art, one that required respect, timing, and heart. And Jerry Lewis, in her eyes, had none of those. Number 5. Talula Bankhead. When Talula Bankhead guest starred on the Lucy Desi Comedy Hour in 1957, it was supposed to be a legendary episode. Two iconic women, one, the queen of television comedy, the other, a Broadway and Hollywood storm of glamour, scandal, and swagger, sharing the screen. But instead of magic, it turned into one of the most toxic sets Lucy ever experienced. Talula Bankhead was bold, loud, and unapologetically dramatic. She spoke with a booming southern drawl, smoked like a chimney, and swore like a sailor. Lucy, who ran her sets like a tight ship, expected focus, discipline, and most of all, respect. And from day one, Talula gave her none of it. Rehearsals were a nightmare. Talula refused to memorize lines, rolled her eyes at Lucy's direction, and treated the sitcom format as beneath her talent. Crew members recalled how she'd arrive late, forget cues, and openly mock the jokes in the script. Lucille Ball was furious. Not only was the episode falling apart, but Bankhead was sabotaging the entire flow of the production. Things got so bad that the two women reportedly stopped speaking off camera. Lucy had to send Desi Arnaz or an assistant to relay instructions, because she refused to deal with Talula directly. At one point, Lucy is said to have whispered to her writers, "She's not a guest star, she's a hurricane in heels." Bankhead didn't hold back either. She called Lucy uptight and accused her of taking herself too seriously. The clash was more than professional. It was personal. Both women were used to being the center of attention. Both were forces of nature. But when two storms collide, only destruction follows. Despite all the chaos, the episode was filmed and aired. But the final product, while polished on screen, hid the hostility behind the scenes. Viewers saw comedy. Lucy saw catastrophe. After it aired, Lucy swore she would never work with Talula again. And she never did. She later described the experience as one of the worst of her entire career. In Lucille Ball's world, there was no room for chaos disguised as charisma. And Talula Bankhead, brilliant, bold, and reckless, was exactly the kind of storm Lucy never wanted to face again. Number 6. Joan Crawford. Lucille Ball and Joan Crawford were two towering figures in Hollywood, but they couldn't have been more different. One was the queen of comedy, beloved by families across America. The other, a silver screen icon, known for her intense performances and icy elegance. But behind the red carpets and posed photographs was a deep, cold rivalry that Lucy never forgot. Their tension didn't start on set. It started with reputation. Joan Crawford represented the old guard of Hollywood, dramatic, polished, and obsessed with image. Lucille Ball, though trained in that same era, broke away from the glamour trap and redefined what it meant to be a leading woman. She was real, raw, and relatable. Crawford never respected that shift. When Crawford guest starred on The Lucy Show in 1967, their differences became painfully clear. Joan was late, slurred her lines, and reportedly arrived on set intoxicated. Lucy, who ran a strict, well-oiled production, was furious. She prided herself on professionalism. And here was Joan Crawford, a guest, treating her show like a throwaway cameo. Behind the scenes, Lucy tried to keep the peace. She offered help, rewrote scenes to simplify Joan's part, and even invited her to rehearsals, where Crawford barely showed up. At one point, Lucy allegedly told a producer, "I don't care who she was in the 30s. She's not going to sync my show today." Their interactions were cold and clipped. When cameras rolled, Lucy held it together, but the sparkle was forced. And when the episode ended, Lucille made a vow. Never again. She told her staff she wouldn't work with Crawford in any future projects. What made things worse was Joan's backstage attitude. She reportedly mocked the show's humor, saying Lucy's comedy was for housewives and children. To Lucy, that wasn't just an insult. It was a dismissal of her entire life's work. When Crawford passed away in 1977, Lucille Ball offered a short statement to the press. It was respectful, but noticeably distant. The truth was, Lucy never forgave the disrespect, the chaos, and the ego. For Lucille Ball, working with Joan Crawford was more than a challenge. It was a reminder that not all legends play well together. Some carry crowns too heavy to share a stage.